Hello and welcome back. This is Coach Carol with a series of video tutorials that look at how you can use AI tools to help generate images to illustrate ancestral stories. In this tip, I'm looking closely at how you can actually ask the combination of tools to come up with an image to depict one of your ancestors. Let me show you how I did this. I'm heading over to Chat GPT and I have DALL-E 3 set as my assistant at the top that you can see here. I'll show you at the end of this one how that is put in place. What I wanted to do was to ask it to create a sketch of one of my ancestors, my grandmother. So I've described the era in which she lived. I've described her face, her hair, and her style of clothing, and what type of image that I wanted. For example, a portrait and she is seated. So this is what it came up with first. It has rendered two different types of images here for me, and the one on the left is my favorite. But it also goes on to describe what type of image it is. So the first one is a photo representation, capturing the essence. And then the second one is an artistic illustration. So that gives you a clue as to the type of wording that you can use in your prompt to get the same sort of image happening for you. So I took that a step further and asked it another question. But I've told it that I prefer image 1, so it refers to that first one. And I'd like it to create 2 more sketches based on this one to show the same woman as a middle-aged woman and then as an elderly lady. I want the same photo representation style in the same seated position, and the dress style is now for the 1920s and later for the 1950s. And this is what it came up with. Quite an imaginative set of photos that you could almost think would be true to life of the same woman at different ages. They were intriguing, but not exactly what I wanted for the elderly lady. This one on the left I liked very much as the middle-aged woman, but I wanted more detail, or perhaps less detail, for the elderly lady. So I continued. Notice how it's giving me a description of how it has drawn these images. And my next prompt was to do with the picture of the elderly lady. I figured she was a bit too old, too many wrinkles. So I've asked to regenerate an image of an 80-year-old with a relatively wrinkle-free face. Hairstyle more modest, greying hair pulled back in a bun, and some ringlets on her forehead. This time the dress style of the 1950s, but less formal, a dark grey dress. So this is what it came up with. It's getting closer to what I have in my mind, but I figured that the face was still a little too etched with wrinkles. And I corresponded again and said that I like the clothing and hairstyle, but can you regenerate to around 70 years of age with no wrinkles? It's still not really understanding that no wrinkle stuff, because this is what it came up with next. It's a better image, but there are still wrinkles, even though it says quite clearly that this image captures a youthful complexion, completely wrinkle-free. Not true. However, the hairstyle and attire is as I preferred. So that was an interesting way to start this conversation and to continue to get the images that I wanted. Looking at my way in which I did the portraits for my grandfather, this is what it came up with. I'll have to scroll to the top first. Once again, I've given a fairly detailed prompt describing what I think my grandfather looked like from an old photo that I have, and the dress style, his complexion, and his body language. And this was the first attempt. The one on the right is rather odd. I'm not sure what's going on with the mustache there. So the one on the left was slightly better. And the style of the collar and the tie was more in keeping with the era that I was wanting to depict. So I took that a step further and once again said, I prefer image 1. Now give me an interpretation of him as a middle-aged man, duplicating the same photographic style and body posture and clothing that of the 1920s. And this is what it came up with. So the one on the right was the one that I chose as it was closer to my original description of my grandfather. And I have used that one. Once again, it describes what it's done, and it's very polite. It says, please let me know if these resonate with your vision or if there's any further adjustments that you'd like. And of course, you can go on and keep adjusting. You need to give it some time because it does take a few minutes to generate the images. Now, going back to how do I get DALL-E 3, let's start a new chat. And we do need to make sure that we're in GPT-4 and that we've got DALL-E 3 switched on down here. So I'll show you. If we were back in 3.5, we now need to switch over to GPT-4 and then select DALL-E 3. That's how you do it. And you too can come up with some wonderful images and sketch some images of your ancestors the way you think they might have looked. Good luck with that, and let me know how you proceed.